In January of 2021, Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. In February, they said that they would accept Bitcoin as transaction fees for purchasing new Teslas. Last week, Elon Musk said that Tesla would no longer be accepting Bitcoin for transactions for purchasing cars or other items, and that Tesla would no longer buy nor sell Bitcoin until things had changed. And just today, Elon Musk said he might go all in on Dogecoin. What the heck is all this stuff going on with Tesla and cryptocurrency, and what the heck even is cryptocurrency? Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So first of all, I want to say that I am not going to be doing a deep dive into the exact methodology of cryptocurrency. I'm just going to kind of float on the surface here a little bit. I think it's adequate for the discussion that we're going to have today, but I want to be clear that I'm not going deep diving into how cryptocurrency works. If you want to have a deep dive into how cryptocurrency works on an exact level, definitely let me know in the comments or email me and we can do that as a separate video. So the impetus for this episode, of course, is that Tesla is having this crazy relationship right now with cryptocurrency, and Elon Musk in particular on Twitter is generating quite a bit of a storm. And of course, if you were watching Bitcoin prices last week, they tanked after Elon Musk's tweet. So it's a big deal when Elon talks about cryptocurrency. So in order to contextualize this entire discussion, let's again talk on a kind of high level about what crypto is. So this is all cryptocurrency and not just Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever, but this is all cryptocurrency. So basically the analogy that we use is like gold on Earth. So if you imagine back to caveman days, right? If you're a caveman, you're walking around and you might find a piece of gold just lying on the ground because it was very readily available. It wasn't really worth anything yet because no one had really come up with the concept of gold equals time because essentially money equals time on a theoretical basis, right? That's kind of what it is. You are basically committing a period of time and expertise of your life to someone else, and in exchange they're giving you something so that you can then go and exchange that thing with other people who have spent time and effort working on something else, right? So the basic thing would be food, right? So you go to work and you do job X and you make your widgets, and that time that you spend doing there and the expertise that you have making those widgets has some value. That value then gets converted to dollars or pounds or yen or whatever the heck it is. And then you take that from your bank account and you go to the grocery store, and someone else has spent the time and effort to grow wheat, and then someone else has spent time and effort turning that wheat into bread, and then someone else has transported that bread to the grocery store, and then the grocery store has of course given up their time and effort of a lot of employees to put that on the shelf and make it available for you. So you purchase it. So basically it's time, right? So that's what money is. But back in the early days, right, before gold had a real intrinsic value, obviously it would be shiny and people would probably look at it. But in those days, it was easy to find it and you could just kind of pick it up off the ground. Now, of course, nowadays finding gold is an incredibly difficult and time-consuming thing where you have to mine the earth. So you have to dig it up and you have to go where you think there's going to be gold. There's a huge amount of cash outlaid to get it. There's a lot of energy involved in mining gold, etc., etc. So basically the idea of cryptocurrency was to do that, but with math instead. So as opposed to fiat currencies, and fiat currencies are things like, again, the US dollar or the yen or the yuan or the euro, etc. Those are things that are made by fiat of government. A government says there is a value to this particular coinage and that is the value, and therefore everyone can trade it around and they can use it as an exchange medium. Cryptocurrency, on the other hand, is based upon the mathematical difficulty of solving equations, mostly factoring really, really large prime numbers. So basically at the beginning, when you could mine Bitcoin on your laptop, and I really wish I had done that back in the 2000s, 2008, 2009, 2010, etc. At that time, it was very easy to solve these equations. It was relatively simple stuff and anyone's computer could do it, so no big deal. What happens, of course, is that there's a limited supply of this, just like there's a limited supply of gold on the earth. There's a limited supply of these Bitcoins. And so over time, what happens is every time a certain number of Bitcoins are mined, the level of difficulty of the mathematical calculations goes up and it becomes harder and harder to mine the next sort of tranche of Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin. I'm just using that as an example. But basically, once you hit the final tranche, it becomes impossible to mine anymore. And that is the amount of crypto coins that are ever going to be out there, which is the reason why Bitcoin's value goes up and up and up. In the beginning, it was worth pennies, right? And now it's worth somewhere around $53,000. It was close to 60 recently, etc. Right? Anyway, so it fluctuates a lot, but the reason why it has value is because there are a limited supply of Bitcoins in the world, or in the math space. And once all of them are mined, that's it. You can't get any more. That's the whole supply of Bitcoin forever. The second piece of this is what's called the blockchain. So I always think about this as like, I don't know, I think about Ebenezer Scrooge. I think about 19th century like British people. They always had their clerks that would sit over desks, right? And they were writing all the time. They were writing in a ledger. And what they were doing is they were recording every single transaction in a ledger that their business did. And effectively what's going on with all these cryptocurrencies is they've got what's called a blockchain, and that is a bunch of blocks and a chain of them, right? So that's why it's a blockchain. And this is a ledger of every single transaction that has ever been done on Bitcoin or Dogecoin or other coins, other cryptocurrencies. And essentially what that is a publicly available source where you can go back and you can look at a particular transaction and judge whether it actually happened or not, if you particularly care about doing that. That creates the validity of the coinage. So the equivalent of this with like sort of normal currency is if you go to your bank and you say, I want to withdraw $500 US or whatever currency it is, you take out the money and the bank then records that, but the bank is privately recording that information. So that's up to the bank to maintain that ledger, and that's their thing between you and them. And if somebody screws up, like if the bank happened to lose those records, especially if you deposited 500 instead of withdrawing it, and they like forgot that you deposited that $500, well, you're just kind of screwed because it's just a private entity. Now, of course, there are many, many protections in place to make sure that doesn't happen, but it could happen, and it certainly in the past has happened. So that's the kind of thing that can take place when it's just a private transaction. The deal with cryptocurrency is it's a public transaction. Every single transaction ever on Bitcoin or any of the other cryptocurrencies is available in these massive and ever-growing ledgers that are there for the public to look at should they choose to. So in a way, the mining that's going on these computers is being utilized to validate the transactions that are happening in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And so the two elements are aligned with each other, which is why the mining is so critical to the way that these cryptocurrencies function. All right, so there's your overview of how cryptocurrency works. What is going on right now that Elon Musk and Tesla and the whole world seem to be exploding about? Well, the deal is that as this mining gets more and more difficult, it requires more and more energy to do. So again, like I said, back 10 or 11 years ago, you could mine Bitcoin on your laptop. When I mined Bitcoin for a period of time, it was 2013, I believe, and we already needed like a $6,000 or $7,000 specialized computer that specifically was built for mining cryptocurrency. And it required a lot of energy, and it ran a huge fan, and it was very hot. You can imagine that was 8 years ago now. It has gotten incredibly difficult and energy intensive to mine this stuff now because of the fact that the equations have gotten so complicated and there's so much going on. And that's going on with other cryptocurrencies too. Bitcoin is particularly bad about this, and I don't understand all the ins and outs, but some of these cryptocurrencies are better in terms of energy per transaction. Bitcoin is particularly bad about it. Bitcoin has a weird history. It was developed by someone who's very secretive, and no one still to this day knows who he is. I think he might actually be Japanese. We don't even know. It could even be a consortium or someone who died in the meantime. No one actually knows. And then you have things like Dogecoin, which was actually started as a meme coin. It was just a joke, and it wasn't supposed to be real. So that is bizarre. Also, Ethereum, in terms of cryptocurrencies, is probably the one that has the most sort of provenance, if you want to talk about that. It's got a consortium of people that are working really, really hard to make it a very effective and sustainable cryptocurrency. And just for full disclosure, I own one Bitcoin, which I actually mined. So that was never purchased in any sense. It was actually mined, like I said, in 2013 before our computer broke, and that sucked because that meant we didn't end up with more cryptocurrency, which would have been nice. The second thing is that I just purchased, like today, I purchased some Ethereum and some Dogecoin. I'm just trying to diversify my cryptocurrency holdings. I don't know. It was a very small amount of money, but I just want to be clear that I do actually own own cryptocurrency. I'm not trying to make any statements about one versus the other in terms of investing or anything like that, but I do want to be clear that that's my status at the moment. So anyway, the upshot of all of this is that the intensity of mining, in particular for Bitcoin, has actually skyrocketed so much, in particular since Tesla purchased the $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, that they've actually started opening up old, very heavily polluting fossil fuel power plants to generate the extra energy that's necessary to mine all this cryptocurrency. A lot of this is actually happening in China. There's an area of China that produces a massive amount of pollution because a huge amount of their power is devoted specifically to crypto mining. So anyway, this brings us to a statement from Tesla, and I'll just go ahead and read it. Tesla has suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. We are concerned about rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has a promising future, but this cannot come at great cost to the environment. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transitions to a more sustainable energy. We are also looking at other cryptocurrencies that use less than 1% of Bitcoin's energy per transaction. So like I said earlier, one of Bitcoin's big problems is it's very energy intensive, and there are other cryptocurrencies that are less energy intensive per transaction. So again, the mining has to do with the transactions themselves, and you can have very efficient mining and very low energy cost transactions, or very inefficient mining and very high energy cost transactions. And that's what Tesla is talking about here. And of course, Elon Musk has tweeted a whole bunch about Bitcoin and about Dogecoin also, and a lot of people think it's just a joke about Dogecoin, but a couple of tweets that Elon has recently released have been quite revealing. In particular, today, Peter McCormick said that, "Dear Elon Musk, the perfect troll is one where people don't know whether it is a troll or not. Your recent poorly informed criticism of Bitcoin and support for Doge may be the perfect troll, or you might actually believe this. God, I hope not." To which Elon Musk replied, "Obnoxious threads like this make me want to go all in on Doge." So even though Dogecoin really started as a meme thing and a joke, and for a long time it was worth less than a penny US per Dogecoin, it's now up to, I think, 51 cents or so per Dogecoin, and who knows? I mean, it could actually go up. I mean, if Tesla decides that they will accept Dogecoin for Tesla transactions, like purchasing a car, I could see Doge going way, way up. And one main thing that's actually good about Dogecoin is it's really, really low energy cost per transaction. There are many, many more coins, and I don't, again, know the details of how this works, but the energy cost per transaction to buy and sell coins is much, much lower than it is for Bitcoin. And even though Elon Musk doesn't really give Ethereum a whole lot of love, Ethereum really is, in terms of the legitimate cryptocurrencies, it's the one that has the most legitimacy. So again, like I said earlier, I've purchased a very small amount of Ethereum just to kind of have it and see what happens. I might buy some more over time, who knows. But anyway, I feel like it's probably a good idea to diversify at this point, because one doesn't know. I think that cryptocurrency in general has a real future. I just don't know which of the cryptocurrencies is kind of going to be the winner. Maybe all of them will be, but maybe only one will be. One does not know at this point, so that's why I've diversified. But anyway, a lot of people have cried foul with Elon Musk, saying he was pumping and dumping, and that basically what he did was he bought Bitcoin and he pumped it up and he talked about it, and then as soon as it reached a really, really high level, he then sold it, I guess, and then has said bad things about it, made it come down again, because he really does move markets at this point. And then I guess the idea is that he would buy some more Bitcoin on the dip and then he would make more money. I don't know. I personally do not feel that this is the case. I think this is much, much more about the environmental impact of Bitcoin, which really has a massive environmental impact, although it is debatable how that exactly works out. Now, of course, as I've said in previous videos, if and when we get to sustainable energy production, for example, like solar that actually produces too much power at times of day, like in the afternoons when the sun is very strong on the solar panels, and they actually might have too much power and there's not really any place to dump it, they could dump that into mining at that point. So they could use a very, very green source to mine cryptocurrency. Now, a lot of people have asked Tesla to go ahead and create their own cryptocurrency. Elon Musk has sort of poo-pooed that. He said it's a very difficult thing to do. And I imagine it is. I mean, we're talking about a lot of smart people who are way smarter than I am, who have created this idea of doing mathematical equations and keeping a ledger as a way of having a currency that's not centralized with any any bank. It's just a decentralized thing that the whole globe owns collectively. So I don't imagine it's super easy to create a new cryptocurrency, but it is an interesting idea because Tesla does sell solar roofs and solar panels. They do sell batteries, and they do sell cars that have pretty impressive computing chips inside them that could do cryptocurrency mining while the car was plugged in or something like that. So ultimately, Tesla could create their own cryptocurrency, or alternatively, they could get in bed with like Dogecoin again. I don't know why it's always Dogecoin, but they could decide that they were going to allow their consumers, the people who purchase their cars, or especially their solar roofs and their batteries, to do mining on the power that is being produced by the sun from them. Anyway, in conclusion, it's pretty clear that Tesla intended to use Bitcoin and they were very in on cryptocurrency, but that what happened was the spike after Tesla announced their purchase of Bitcoin has created such a huge energy drain that they feel personally responsible for the fact that coal-fired power plants are coming online specifically to mine Bitcoin. And I can understand why that is a serious issue for a company that talks about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. So I can see how that's happening. It really doesn't make sense this would be a pump and dump sort of scenario. It's much more likely that Tesla looked at the situation and said, oh gosh, we have actually created a bigger problem than we intended to, and so they're backing off. And like they say, if they can figure out an environmentally responsible way to do these transactions, they will go ahead and do them. So it is very much a Wild West world right now. Cryptocurrency is very Wild West. It feels really kind of edgy and dangerous, and one doesn't know what's going to happen with it. But it is interesting to look at this, and it very well could take over currency from many, many central banks of many countries. So it's very much worth finding out what's going on, and it's really worth looking at what Tesla is doing in particular because they're such a forward-facing company. So we will see what happens. On a personal basis, I hope that Bitcoin goes back up again, and I hope they figure out a sustainable way to do this because it helps me out because I own a Bitcoin. But more generally, I am very convinced that cryptocurrency is the way of the future, and so I'm very happy to see Tesla and other companies really take this seriously. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and informative. If you did, definitely like it so other people can find it, and be sure to subscribe for more of this. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Of course, don't forget about WeBull, which is a stock and crypto trading platform. When you open your account, you get one free stock valued up to $250, and if you fund your account with $100 or more, you get another free stock valued at up to $1,600. And of course, you can now buy Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Ethereum on WeBull. Definitely check out the link in the description for more. And of course, don't forget about our merch store, which sells Don't Mess with Tesla, All Input is Error, many other t-shirts, tumblers, mugs, etc. Check it out in the description. And finally, don't forget we are both Amazon and Tesla affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how clicking on a link helps out the channel. Thank you. In the meantime, don't forget to ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is DrKnowItAllKnows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.